I'm back. Wow, been on the road for a while. Good to be back. Spent the last week in Orlando. Didn't set foot outside of the hotel the whole time. In sunny Orlando, it wasn't all that sunny, guys. There for a work conference and just I it's it's sad. I was there for as long as I was, literally across the parking lot from Disney World. Never set foot out of the hotel. How crazy is that? It's ridiculous, actually. I'm not proud. All right, welcome to this edition of the Classic Guitar Rock Daily Update. And we've got some news, we've got some things to get to. David Lee Roth, we heard from him last week. We don't hear from Dave much. We don't hear from Dave much. And so it was kind of good to hear from him last week as he was bashing Sammy. I love Sammy. I love Dave. And not that I'm saying I loved him bashing Sammy, but it was just good to hear something from Dave because we never hear something good from Dave. Well, now I think we're okay if Dave just goes away and doesn't say anything else for 10 years. I think we'd all be okay with that because the latest is, this is from People Magazine. He has expressed contempt toward Wolfgang, son of Eddie and the bass player in the last incarnation of Van Halen. Also, of course, he's the son of Valerie Bertinelli. Valerie Bertinelli. In a YouTube video shared just this past Wednesday, he says he refers to Wolfgang, who's now 32 years old already, who refers to him as Jesus Christ, as he mocks him for benefiting from nepotism. Quote, "Bro, I want people to know I got this job because of my talent," Wolfgang impersonator says. I would have this job anyway, even if my dad wasn't God. I just want people to know I got this job because of my talent," end quote. So he's poking fun at Wolfie there. And then he mocks Wolfgang, who replaced original Van Halen bassist Michael Anthony, for allegedly claiming the singer didn't pay attention to him on stage. According to Roth, the younger Van Halen threw a woman whom Wolfgang thought was Roth's girlfriend, but was actually an accountant in charge of payroll for the tour. He threw her out of 2 concerts to get back at him for it. And then Roth shares this video on Instagram where he's saying all this with the post, "This effing kid," end quote. So some rancor from Dave toward Wolfie. Haven't heard a response from Wolfgang yet. In other Wolfie news, Wolfgang shared a message on social media today in remembrance of the legendary Van Halen guitarist, his dad, on what would have been his 69th birthday. Wolfgang wrote, quote, "I wish you were here so I could give you a big hug, go to dinner, celebrate it with you, and make a dumb joke about it being your 69th birthday. Just regular S. I miss hearing you laugh. I miss laughing with you. It's the little things. I'll do my best to keep a smile on my face and think of you today. But then again, that's not very different from any other day so far without you. I love and miss you more than you could ever possibly know. Happy birthday, Pop." So a heartfelt birthday message from Wolfie to his dad, Eddie Van Halen. Yes. Are you a fan of the Yes? Have you been following Yes? Yes has been a revolving door of musicians for the last 30 years. And I would say I would not consider I am a Yes fan. I'm a Yes fan. I have all of their classic albums and some of the newer albums. And here's the thing. They've never put out a bad album. Okay. All of their albums, even with the revolving cast of characters, John Anderson hasn't been in the band for eons. And he was even kind of in and out before he officially left in, I think, 2008. But, you know, Billy Sherwood, the people that have come in and replaced others are very talented musicians, and they continue to put out good stuff. Lots of bands like Kansas, like Uriah Heep, a lot of these bands that don't have all the original members. That doesn't mean they aren't still putting out great stuff, because they are. Of course, none of the new stuff gets promoted. You got to go look for it. But, and I would encourage you to go look for it, because you'll hear some great stuff, right? But it ain't going to get promoted, ain't going to get played on radio anywhere. But there is still good stuff out there. But John Anderson says he's open to a reunion with his former Yes bandmates Steve Howe and Rick Wakeman. In a new interview with Mojo, the singer said he still considers himself a part of his old band, even though he left Yes in 2008. Quote, I was talking to my touring band, the Band Geeks. There's another rabbit hole. We'll talk about the Band Geeks in a sec. And said, hopefully we can play in London and Steve will get up and do a couple of songs with us. Maybe Rick too, Anderson recalled. It just means talking. When I'm out there singing on my own, I still think I'm part of Yes. They still feel like my songs. Well, they are your songs. Should feel that way. Band Geeks. If you don't follow the Band Geeks, if you don't watch them on YouTube, you're missing out. Ricky Castellano. Ricky? Is that his name? Ricky? Am I getting the name wrong? Anyways, I think it's Ricky Castellano. If I'm getting your name wrong, I'm sorry. But he's a member of Blue Oyster Cult. He's actually in Blue Oyster Cult right now. But when Blue Oyster Cult is not doing anything, before he was in Blue Oyster Cult, he was involved in, he's a very talented musician and surrounds himself with a lot of other musicians. I think are they in the Boston area? I don't know. I should know more about the Band Geeks. But they're just one of the greatest bands on YouTube. They play everything. They play Yes. They play metal. Phenomenally talented. Ricky Castellano, very talented, multi-instrumentalist. Well, so they've been playing Yes tunes. They do Yes covers. And somehow John Anderson got connected with these Band Geeks. And now Band Geeks are his backing band. How cool is that? That's awesome. They play Heart of the Sunrise and Owner of a Lonely Heart. They're doing all the Yes classics, and it's just really cool. Kind of a cool story. So you need to go check out Band Geeks as soon as we're done here. They got several videos on YouTube, and they're just awesome. But Anderson was on stage with his former bandmates when Yes was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2017. That was his first time performing with the band since 2004. And then Anderson had already been touring with Wakeman. They had toured, he and Wakeman and Trevor Rabin were touring, doing all Yes stuff called ARW as a group. So they were kind of like two competing Yes bands touring at the same time, kind of like Judas Priest and KK's Priest. Same type of deal. So if you're a fan of live Yes music, you had two opportunities. You could go see it with John Anderson and Trevor Rabin and Rick Wakeman, or you could see it with Steve Howe and the rest of the guys that are now Yes. But he's open to getting together with them again. He says, quote, we're still friends, but we're not connected, Anderson said. The first time I realized it wasn't going to continue was when I discovered you could send MP3s on the computer. So I emailed Steve and Chris Squire, so this is a while back, saying, why don't we send music to each other? We're on the same planet. And they never replied. Maybe they never got the email. Of course, Chris Squire died. That was sad. And he died. And here's, again, why the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a piece of crap. They didn't induct him until after Chris Squire had died. The big fat jerk nozzles. Anyways. So he's open to a reunion. I think that'd be great. Yes, fans would love that. I think that would be awesome. Have you seen these things lately? I've seen a couple of these. I saw one with LeVar Burton the other day. Saw one with some other celebrity. I can't remember what. Well, then I just saw one with Sammy Hagar. It's this PBS show called Finding Your Roots, where they run DNA and they find out about your DNA, your family history. It's fascinating. LeVar Burton found out his great grandpa was a white dude. Okay. He didn't think he was shocked. Okay. The one dude on Saturday Night Live, can't remember his name, Tim Meadows. Is that it? Tim Meadows. Yeah. He found out that his grandfather was a slave, but the slave owner was an Indian dude. So it's fascinating when you find out your family history. when you find out there might be things in your family history you had no idea. No, it's fascinating. Anyway, Sammy Hagar is sitting down with this guy, Henry Louis Gates Jr., who I think is the guy that there was a scandal years ago when he was trying to get into his own house and the cops thought he was breaking in. And there was that was the beer summit with Obama. Of course, Obama, wanted to make some political hay out of it. That's not a political statement. That's what politicians do, right? They want to insert themselves wherever there's an opportunity for them to be in the spotlight. They all do it. Okay. Democrats, Republicans, they're all dirtbags. Okay. They all do it. Sorry. We don't do politics here. But anyways, that was the guy. I think Louis Gates. I think that's the dude. Henry Louis Gates. Pretty sure. I'll have to do some research. I digress. So Sammy Hagar is sitting down with Henry Louis Gates to find out about his DNA. And here's what he found out. Henry Louis Gates says, genetically, you are not a Hagar. Sam's response, get out of here. No, he's not. He's actually, there were 27 men with the surname Belcher that were a solid match with Sammy. No one with the surname Hagar matched Sammy's DNA. Fascinating. So I'm looking for more of these things coming out from other famous people to see what happens. I'm related to Merle Haggard. Did I ever tell you that? Yeah. Country music legend Merle Haggard. He's like my 8th cousin or 6th. I don't know. Never met him, but it's pretty cool being related to Merle Haggard. Okay, I got a list of some upcoming albums that might be of interest to you. Okay. And then I got an email I want to share with you. And also we got a comment here we're going to get to. So upcoming albums. These are new albums, but by bands that are either classic bands or bands that play the melodic classic rock style that we all know and love. Just a few I've jotted down that will spotlight coming up. Coming up here this next week, Dokken, the Elektra albums, 1983 to 87 box set. That's coming out. Ronnie Romero, Raised on Heavy Radio on the Frontiers label, comes out. Ronnie Romero, of course, has worked with Michael Schenker, Vandenberg. He was in that Richie Blackmore Rainbow reunion that happened a few years ago. Lords of Black. I mean, the guy's all over the place. Great singer. Should be a great album. Uriah Heep's Chaos and Color is coming out. And a new Steve Vai album, Vai Gash, is coming out. Also, the Winery Dogs 3. If you never heard the Winery Dogs, check them out. That, of course, Portnoy, Billy Sheehan, and other guy, guitar player guy. Can't think of his name. But they're awesome. Winery Dogs. See them or check that out. Motley Crue, Crucial Crew, the studio albums, 81 to 89 is coming out. Robin McAuley, Alive, also coming out on Frontiers. Robin McAuley, of course, excuse me, who fronted the McAuley Schenker Group and currently is touring with Michael Schenker. And of course, we've talked about these. Ace Frehley's 10,000 Volts album drops on February 23rd, and Judas Priest's Invincible Shield drops on March 8th. So mark those on your calendar. Excuse me. I've got the creeping crud. Ugh. All right, let's get to a comment here. This is from Peace of Mind, who's joining us. Thank you so much. This was in response to my question earlier when I said, do you listen to Yes? Peace of Mind has been listening to them all day. I love Yes. In fact, I'm in a Yes mood. I think when I'm done here, I'll go listen to Yes. So Peace of Mind, thanks for chiming in. You can all chime in too, anytime during these live streams. Now, let's go to the mailbag because I want to address this. I want to make sure there's no confusion about this. Dear Classic Rock, let me take a drink. Our sponsor, Gas Station Fountain Drinks. Dear Classic Rock, I was listening to an older episode of the podcast where you talk about Gary Moore and was surprised when you mentioned something to the effect that you were disappointed by Gary's blues stuff. I first discovered him through his Still Got the Blues album in the late 80s, early 90s, whenever it came out. I must say, I was gobsmacked when you said that. They were gobsmacked when I said I was disappointed by Gary's blues stuff. But I must admit that I've since heard others express the same sentiment. I'm a big fan of your podcast, but I was surprised to hear you say what you did. I'd love to hear some clarification or at least further explanation on this point. In my opinion, Gary Moore is one of the greatest blues artists ever. Thanks for hearing me out. Love the podcast. Liam Granger, UK. Liam, thank you so much. And I'm glad you emailed because I want to make sure that people know exactly where I stand on Gary Moore. I will first say Gary Moore is in my top 5 of guitar players of all time. So let there be no confusion about my love for Gary Moore. I love Gary Moore. One of my favorite guitar players, one of my most influential, I believe one of the most influential guitarists. A lot of guys, a lot of the metal shredders, they'll tell you they borrowed a lot from Gary Moore, who borrowed a lot from Jeff Beck. Here's the point I was trying to make. When Gary Moore took his blues turn in the late 80s and did Still Got the Blues and all of that, it was disappointing to me. And that is not because he wasn't a phenomenal blues player. He's a great blues player. But I think when he took that turn, he wasn't as original and innovative and mind-blowing as a blues player. He just wasn't. He wasn't. You give me Corridors of Power or Victims of the Future, you give me one of those albums, I love those 10 times more than his blues albums. I just thought he differentiated himself much more in the rock idiom than as a blues guitarist. I think, strong words from me, I think him moving into the blues thing, to me, was the easy way out. I think he was coasting at that point. I really do. That's my personal opinion. Sorry. I think he was just much better as a rock guitarist than a blues guitarist. And not ironically, because this is the point, that's where many folks discovered Gary. It's ironic that Liam's in the UK, but most Americans think of Gary as a blues artist, right? Where Gary was much more popular in Europe as a hard rock artist than he ever was here. But it was really his rock stuff in the late 70s, early 80s, to me, that made him so special. That doesn't mean he wasn't a great blues player. And maybe it's just that I'm not as big a blues fan as I am a rock fan. I don't know. But I think as a guitarist, I just think he differentiated himself much more as a rock player than a blues player. And so I will just say this to all the people that think of Gary as a blues player: just go back and listen to the rock stuff. Okay? Listen to the rock stuff. And I'm not telling you to not like the blues. And I have his blues albums. So I'm not a Gary Moore hater. I love Gary Moore. I loved him so much as a rock artist that I was disappointed when he started playing the blues. I mean, it's subjective. It's my personal opinion. He did what he wanted to do. And of course, as Peace of Mind points out, Gary's work with Thin Lizzy. It's phenomenal. What a contribution Gary has made. Just a great player. Again, in my top 5 of all time, I just preferred his rock stuff to his blues stuff. So I don't want anyone to have the misconception that I don't think he was a great blues player, because he was. He was an awesome blues player. He was even better as a rock player. But Liam, thank you so much for your email. I'm I'm thankful that you gave me the chance to elucidate on that point. Guys, thanks so much for joining me today, and we'll do it again on Monday. Thank you. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye.